Welcome to our world. In this episode, we feature the opening remarks by President Putin at the 9th Eastern Economic Forum. The theme of this year's forum is Expanding Horizons, Strategic Development, Innovations, and Investments for a Prosperous Future in Russia's Far East. Join us as we delve into President Putin's vision for advancing the region through strategic development, groundbreaking innovations, and investment opportunities. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay updated with our in-depth coverage of key global economic events and developments. President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. Prime Minister of Malaysia, Anwar Ibrahim. Vice President of the People's Republic of China, Han Zhan. Moderator of the plenary session, Alexandra Severova. Good afternoon, I'm pleased to welcome you to the plenary session of the Eastern Economic Forum. This year, the forum's theme is, The Far East 2030, Joining Forces to Create Opportunities. Vladimir Vladimirovich, you have often emphasized that the development of the Far East is a priority for the entire 21st century. What has been achieved so far, and what lies ahead? How is Russia shaping its interactions with its colleagues in the Asia-Pacific region and regional organizations? We will seek and confidently find answers to these questions together during the discussion. But first, Vladimir Vladimirovich, the floor is yours. Please approach the podium. Honorable Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, Honorable Mr. Han Zhan, ladies and gentlemen, friends. I welcome all participants and guests of the 9th Eastern Economic Forum. Russia and Vladivostok, as per tradition, host representatives of business, technology, and scientific teams, leaders of major companies, government officials, specialists, experts, and entrepreneurs who are interested in the Russian Far East, and in the truly boundless opportunities for creation and mutually beneficial partnerships that this unique region of our country offers. As you know, we have designated the development of the Far East, as our moderator Alexandra just mentioned, as a national priority for the entire 21st century. The significance and correctness of this decision has been confirmed by real-life events, the challenges we have faced recently, and most importantly, the objective trends that are gaining momentum in the global economy. Today, major business connections, trade routes, and the overall direction of development are increasingly shifting towards the East and the global South. Our Far Eastern regions provide direct access to these growing, promising markets and help overcome the barriers some Western elites are trying to impose on the world. Most importantly, as I've mentioned, our Far East represents a vast space for entrepreneurial initiative, for launching highly complex projects, and for forming entirely new industries. In fact, without any exaggeration, today the Far East has become a crucial factor in strengthening Russia's position globally, serving as our flagship in the new global economic reality. The future of our entire country largely depends on how the Far East develops. This topic, the vision of the future, is the focus of around 100 events, panel sessions, and roundtables at this year's Eastern Economic Forum. Representatives from over 75 countries and territories are participating in the forum. It is very important that these discussions are accompanied by substantive business dialogue, leading to concrete investment decisions and trade agreements. I would like to point out that over the last 3 forums, more than 1,000 agreements have been signed, totaling over 10.5 trillion rubles. In short, the Eastern Economic Forum has rightfully become a recognized platform for establishing strong business contacts and for discussing strategic issues related to the development of Russia's Far East and the entire Asia-Pacific region. During my speech, I will touch on some further steps in this direction, including our proposals to foreign partners for strengthening investment, trade, production, and technological cooperation across the Asia-Pacific region. I will also highlight the achievements and future plans in the economy, infrastructure, and social sphere of the Far East, as well as the initiatives aimed at improving the quality of life for the residents of this region. Let me remind you that in 2013, a fundamentally new strategic program and management system for the comprehensive development of the Far East was launched. This approach has proven to be effective. Over the past 10 years, more than 3,500 industrial, infrastructure, technological, and educational projects have been launched or are in the pipeline in the region. The growth rate of investments in fixed capital in the Far East has tripled. Over 10 years, they have increased threefold, and are 3 times higher than the national average. The results of these investments are also evident. Around 1,000 new enterprises are now operational, and over 140,000 jobs have been created. The industrial output in the region has outpaced the national average by 25% since 2013. I would also like to remind you that there are currently 16 advanced development zones and the free port of Vladivostok operating in the Far East. A preferential regime has been introduced in the Kuril Islands. A special administrative district has been established on Russky Island, where our meetings are currently taking place. By the way, this district has already facilitated the repatriation of assets from offshore and foreign jurisdictions totaling over 5.5 trillion rubles. To date, more than 100 companies have become its residents. We will certainly continue to move forward, constantly improving the business climate in Russia as a whole and in the Far East in particular. This includes applying newer, more effective approaches to working with foreign investors in the region. For instance, at the last Eastern Economic Forum, it was announced that international advanced development territories would be created in the Far East. These territories will offer globally competitive conditions for foreign investors, particularly from friendly countries. The first such international development territory is planned to be established here in Primorsky Krai. Our Chinese friends have shown great interest in this initiative, as has the Republic of Belarus, which could help create a new deep-water port in Primory. I urge the State Duma and the Russian Federation government to expedite work on the legislation necessary for launching these international advanced development territories. Another regulatory measure to expand collaboration with foreign partners is set to take effect, as from September 1 of this year. Our legislation will allow the use of foreign design and construction standards. Of course, this applies to standards from countries where the quality, reliability, and safety requirements for capital projects are at least as high as ours. I expect that this approach will also be used in the international development territories in the Far East. A good example of cooperation with foreign partners, involving significant investment in construction and job creation, is the development of Bolshoi-Usharysky Island in Khabarovsk Krai. This project involves creating major logistics complexes, border crossing points, and expanding the road network. In May of this year, during my state visit to the People's Republic of China, we agreed with our Chinese colleagues to work jointly on this project. I am confident that it will give a strong boost to the development of Khabarovsk and the entire region. I ask the government to address all organizational and financial issues so that this plan can be implemented starting next year, in 2025. Of course, one of the key issues for launching business initiatives in manufacturing, housing construction, and transport network renewal across all sectors is the supply of electricity. Electricity consumption in the Far East is growing. Today, it stands at 69 billion kilowatt-hours per year, and by the end of the decade, it is projected to reach 96 billion. However, even now, some areas, towns, and major Far Eastern investors are facing electricity shortages. New power plants are eagerly awaited, and delays in their launch are holding back construction projects, industrial facilities, and infrastructure development. I have already instructed the government, together with our major energy companies and business circles, to prepare a long-term program for developing energy capacity in the Far East, ensuring that it includes mechanisms for project financing. This program should eliminate the projected energy deficit in the Far East, primarily through the commissioning of new generation facilities, such as the Nizhnyzhskaya hydropower station in the Amur region, which will not only supply electricity to the region and the Eastern Rail network but also help protect towns and territories from floods. I also ask that consideration be given to the construction of nuclear power plants in the Far East. We discussed this with colleagues yesterday as well. I want to stress that the energy development plan must account for both the current and future needs of businesses and citizens, as well as the long-term goals of our federal subjects, cities, and towns. This is equally relevant to strengthening the transportation and logistics capabilities of the Far East and the entire country. The most significant and large-scale project here is, of course, the expansion of the Eastern Railway Corridor. Over the past 10 years, more than 2,000 kilometers have been built, and over 5,000 kilometers of track have been modernized on the Trans-Siberian and Baikal-Amur railways. More than 100 bridges and tunnel have been constructed or again reconstructed, including those across the Rena, Buria, and Selenga rivers. By the end of this year, the carrying capacity of the Eastern Railway Corridor is expected to increase to 180 million tons. This year, we launched the next, third phase of development for this vital transport artery. The work is ongoing and in full swing. I must emphasize that it's not just about expanding the bottlenecks of the main line and commissioning over 300 facilities, including duplicates for the Severomysky, Kuznetsovsky, and Kata-Rski tunnels, as well as the bridge over the Amur River. The task is much broader in scope. For instance, continuous double-track lines will need to be laid along the entire length of the Baikal-Amur mainline, BAM. At the same time, we need to start thinking ahead. I believe that we should not only make BAM fully double-tracked but also electrify the entire line. Over the next 8 years, 3,100 kilometers of railway track will need to be laid in the Eastern Corridor. For comparison, the same amount was laid during the first and second phases of BAM and Trans-Siberian Railway expansion combined. It is also equivalent to the amount laid during the original BAM construction from 1974 to 1984. In short, we are now implementing a project that, in scale, surpasses the largest infrastructure investment project of the Soviet Union, which was accomplished by all the republics of the USSR with tremendous effort. Like the Trans-Siberian Railway, a new continental artery will be the highway corridor stretching from St. Petersburg to Vladivostok. This isn't just about increasing freight traffic or improving road transportation. The construction of the corridor will also boost domestic tourism. The entire route passes through dozens of regions of the Russian Federation. The corridor is being developed in stages. In December last year, a modern highway between Moscow and Kazan was opened. By the end of this year, it is expected to reach Ekaterinburg and later extend to Tyumen. Bypasses will also be built around Omsk, Novosibirsk, Kemerovo, and Kansk. Eventually, when the modern road reaches Vladivostok, the highway corridor will span more than 10,000 kilometers, including access routes to border crossing points. In this regard, I would like to remind you of the task set out in the address to the Federal Assembly, namely, to reduce queues at the border and shorten the typical inspection time for freight trucks. This should not exceed 10 minutes. By 2026, we need to achieve this result at the first 5 border crossings in the Far East. Incidentally, there has already been significant progress in the speed of cargo processing at rail border crossings. I must emphasize that both on the Eastern Railway polygon and at all major highway projects in Russia, extensive work is underway. Specialists, engineers, and designers from many regions of our country are involved in this effort. Through their hard work and responsible approach, they are proving that Russia can and is ready to build quickly, extensively, and with high quality. They are implementing infrastructure and transport projects of national and, in every sense of the word, global scale. Among these projects is the development of the Northern Sea Route as an international logistics corridor. Over the past 10 years, its cargo traffic has grown nearly tenfold. In 2014, only 4 million tons of cargo were transported along the Northern Sea Route, while last year, more than 36 million tons were moved. This is 5 times greater than the record during Soviet times. We will continue to increase cargo traffic, including through the active development of Arctic deposits, and redirecting shipments from west to east by increasing transit. A large-scale development plan for the Northern Sea Route is already in motion. We are building icebreakers, developing satellite constellations, and strengthening coastal infrastructure and a network of emergency rescue centers. To establish new logistical routes, 2 years ago, cabotage shipping routes were launched along the Northern Sea Route. Today, this system includes 14 ports in the Northwest, the Arctic, and the Far East. I would like to note that by the end of last year, the capacity of Russian ports within the Northern Sea Route exceeded 40 million tons. Of course, we see this as just the beginning. We will continue to expand their capabilities, modernize cargo handling, and enhance both short and long-distance rail approaches to them. This will also help increase the capacity of the Murmansk transport hub to 100 million tons, and, in the future, even higher. I would like to emphasize that our partners in Eurasian integration are also interested in developing the Murmansk transport hub. For example, our colleagues from Belarus, whom I have already mentioned, are seriously considering the prospects of developing port infrastructure and their terminals on the Kola Peninsula. And, of course, we invite other countries to participate in this project. I know there is already interest in this endeavor. I would like to add that all of Russia's major transportation and logistics initiatives are being implemented using advanced engineering, digital, and environmentally friendly solutions, which further increases demand for the products of our domestic machine building and metallurgical industries, as well as the services of the construction sector and other branches of science and high-tech businesses. This is precisely how, using the most modern approaches and taking into account the country's significantly enhanced technological, economic, and educational capabilities, we must address the challenges of strategic development in the Far East, including further development of one of the region's core industries, resource extraction. Today, The Far East produces all of Russia's tungsten, tin, fluorspar, and boron ores, 80% of its diamonds and uranium, over 70% of its silver, and 60% of its gold. However, the reserves in key extraction centers, including Yakutia and Chukotka, have been developed for a long time and are naturally limited, while the demand for minerals is increasing, not only for export but also for our domestic market. We must ensure the country's resource sovereignty, create a stable base for the uninterrupted supply of raw materials and fuel to the national economy, our regions, cities, and towns, and lay the groundwork for producing new materials and energy sources. Moreover, as I have already said, this must be done using more efficient domestic technologies and scientific developments in the fields of ecology and natural resource management. At our forum last year, the government was tasked with creating separate programs to explore the mineral resources of the Far East and Siberia, and to include them in the federal project Geology, Revival of a Legend. These programs are now ready. It is estimated that for every ruble of state funds invested in geological exploration, at least 10 rubles of private investment will be attracted. But most importantly, the invested funds will undoubtedly pay off. They will be repaid, generating a strong return, a comprehensive effect throughout the entire production chain. However, this work must be done in a timely manner, with a clear understanding of the investment planning horizon. I am asking the government to include the necessary funding for these programs in the federal budget project for the next 3 years to achieve the set goals. Let me reiterate, the Far East has the potential for a multifold increase in geological exploration. This includes the search for and extraction of high-tech raw materials titanium, lithium, niobium, and rare earth metals which are essential for the economy of the future. And the key point is that we have all of this. The potential of these industries for the growth of the Far Eastern regions, job creation, and improving the availability of various services and strengthening connectivity and logistics is enormous. We will continue to support the development of the Far East, including advanced and creative industries, the infrastructure of the big data economy, and artificial intelligence. This also includes establishing a zone for the operation of unmanned aerial vehicles for civilian purposes. To fully leverage the advantages of technological progress, we will continue to expand the scientific and educational potential of the Far East. The region has already begun implementing new university campus projects in Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk and Khabarovsk. However, it is evident that this is not enough for the Far East. I propose launching several more projects, specifically to build new campuses in Ulan-Ude, Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, and in the Arctic. We will also carry out the construction of the second phase of the campus at the Far Eastern Federal University here in Vladivostok. These centers will be equipped with all the conditions for studying, working, and living for students. There will be spaces for youth entrepreneurship and business clubs. We will also continue developing universities in the Arctic. In addition to the already launched campus project in Arkhangelsk, a similar project will be added in Murmansk. Moreover, advanced engineering schools will operate within these campuses. 2 such schools in Sakhalin and Vladivostok have already been established. Their mission is not only to train specialists for industry, agriculture, transport, and the service sector in the use of artificial intelligence, but also to offer innovative solutions for widespread implementation in management systems, in the social sphere, and in various sectors of the economy. On Russky Island, for 2 years now, the Rus Hydro Company's Scientific and Technical Center has been successfully operating. It specializes in innovative developments in the field of global energy, which are already being actively applied in the program for the technological re-equipment of the Far East's energy complex. Additionally, with the participation of our leading companies, another large innovative scientific and technological center will be established on Rusky Island, based at the Far Eastern Federal University. Its focus will be research and practical solutions in marine engineering, biotechnology, biomedicine, and other promising fields. I urge my colleagues from the government and the Primorsky Krai administration to use the tools of the Far Eastern Concession to implement this project, as well as to develop mechanisms to attract scientists from other research centers in Russia, and from other countries as well. This should include competitive incentive programs and a social package for specialists and their families. Dear colleagues, we understand that the success of our plans, both here in the Far East and across the entire country, throughout Russia, depends primarily on people, on Russian families. I have said many times before, we cannot follow the old logic, where we first build factories and only later think about those working at these enterprises. That approach is not only unfair, it simply doesn't work in the modern economy, in the economy of the future, which is literally being built around the individual. That is why, alongside new economic plans for the Far East, we have launched major social initiatives, including a unified subsidy mechanism. This subsidy is being used to construct and renovate schools, kindergartens, clinics, hospitals, sports complexes, and improve urban environments and infrastructure. To date, almost 2,000 social and infrastructure facilities have been built. The unified subsidy has become a powerful financial lever for the Far Eastern Concession mechanism. Its purpose is to attract private investment into social projects. Businesses have already planned to invest over 120 billion rubles for these goals. 36 such initiatives are currently being implemented, and work is already underway. For example, here in Primory, a year-round ski resort is under construction. In Ulan-Ude, a national museum and theater are being built. In Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, a new community center will be established. In Khabarovsk, art museums are being built. In Magadan and Chita, new sports complexes are under construction, and in both Chita and Birobidzhan, the city's lighting system is being fully modernized. We will, of course, continue to support the work of the Far Eastern Concession. It should be fine-tuned to meet the needs of citizens and the opportunities for businesses. I would like to emphasize something important. Today, under public-private partnerships across the country, schools, airports, bridges, highways, and urban transportation systems are being constructed and upgraded. However, the scale of such projects remains relatively small, less than 3% of GDP, or 4.4 trillion rubles. To develop this sector more intensively, we need to improve relevant legislation as well as the mechanism of public-private partnerships itself. We must ensure that the risks for all parties, government bodies and businesses are transparent and fairly distributed, especially when it comes to projects of public significance. Based on the experience and established practices from technological sovereignty projects, I propose that the VEB-RF Development Corporation act as one of the mandatory participants in public-private partnership projects. The corporation would oversee the risk distribution system, ensuring that the projects are beneficial for both the state and businesses. I have discussed this with Igor Ivanovich, and the corporation is ready for this role. Additionally, as with the project financing factory, this would encourage private investment. I ask the government, together with VEB, to define the specific parameters and scope of transactions under public-private partnerships, which, as I have mentioned, should include VEB's mandatory participation. Moving forward, it is crucial that private investment be attracted with long-term development plans for industries, regions, and our towns and cities in mind, ensuring their comprehensive development. To achieve this comprehensive development, we are actively promoting a fundamentally new tool to improve people's quality of life, so-called master plans. Many are already familiar with this concept, at least among our Russian colleagues. Master plans have already been approved for 22 administrative centers and urban agglomerations in Indiana, the Far East, home to over 4 million people. This includes a plan prepared for the satellite city of Vladivostok. This master plan will integrate the development of the entire Vladivostok agglomeration, including Artem and the Nadezhdinsky district, with its implementation set to begin as early as 2025. What is the specificity, the essence, and the new approach of these master plans? To understand this, we must consider how things used to function at the local level. Economic and urban planning services often operated in isolation. The economy and businesses frequently developed independently, while construction, housing, and social infrastructure were addressed separately. This led to uncoordinated decisions and fragmented urban spaces. Now, the region and local administrations have held a series of discussions with residents and businesses, identifying problem areas and determining the potential for development in all aspects of their communities. For each city, an individual long-term model has been developed. Essentially, for the first time, a single document brings together the concepts of socio-economic and spatial development. Socio-economic and spatial development, integrating transportation, utilities, energy, and other infrastructure. The overarching goal here, I emphasize, is to improve the quality of life for people. That is the purpose. Most of the Far Eastern Master Plan initiatives are still in the planning phase, but already we can say that 70 facilities will be completed by the end of this year. Moving forward, the pace of implementing these master plans should accelerate. To recognize the federal regions and agencies that are making the most progress in this work, the Ministry for the Development of the Far East has created a special ranking. The current leaders in master plan implementation are Sakhalin and Magadan regions, the Republic of Buryatia and Kamchatka and Khabarovsk territories. I thank my colleagues for the progress they have made and encourage them to continue accelerating their efforts. I would like to emphasize that we will monitor the progress of the Far Eastern Master Plans every year, recognizing the best regional teams and federal agencies so that others can follow their example and adopt leading practices. Additionally, we have decided to provide extra budgetary loans for implementing the government-approved master plans. Already, 30 billion rubles have been allocated for these purposes, and I stress, this is additional. I propose that from the approved loan limit for the period from 2025 to 2030, we allocate 100 billion rubles specifically for implementing master plan projects in our Far Eastern and Arctic cities. This amount will be in addition to the standard limits that regions can receive through regular distribution. The realization of urban development plans must also be considered when forming new national projects, the work on which is now in its final stages. Moreover, it is necessary to include funding for the development of Far Eastern cities in separate sections, particularly within such national projects as infrastructure for living, efficient transportation systems, family, long and active life, as well as youth and children. What else is important here? Half of the master plan expenses in Far Eastern cities are covered by non-budgetary sources, meaning investments from businesses and city-forming enterprises. These entities are willing to build clinics, kindergartens, sports centers, lay roads, upgrade utility networks, and revive cultural centers, among other contributions. As I mentioned earlier, we will certainly support such business investments. I am confident that as the pace of urban transformation increases, their share will undoubtedly grow, including from strategic partners of large enterprises, which, as part of their social programs, actively participate in the renewal of the cities where they operate. Their achievements, capabilities, and experience must also be harnessed to implement the master plans. Strategic partners can fully finance the creation of social infrastructure facilities in the cities, towns, or regions where their investment projects are being carried out. After transferring such social facilities to the municipality or region, they can receive compensation through tax breaks, incentives, and other preferences. I ask the government to define the parameters for this mechanism. I want to emphasize that the experience gained in the Far East will serve as the foundation for scaling the practice of master plans. As noted in the address to the Federal Assembly, by 2030, such strategic documents will be prepared for 200 settlements across Russia. This means we will expand from the 22 settlements currently on the Far East to 200 across the country, including key cities that contribute to strengthening Russia's technological sovereignty. Next, a comfortable urban environment and large-scale social infrastructure are integral parts of modern comprehensive residential development. Far Eastern investors implementing such projects are entitled to the benefits of the Advanced Development Territory Framework through the Far Eastern Quarter Instrument, which is currently being tested in 7 regions. Through this initiative, 1.8 million square meters of housing are planned to be built, providing homes for nearly 70,000 people. Overall, I would note that over the past 5 years, the volume of annually constructed housing in the Far East has almost doubled, which is a positive indicator. By the end of this year, 5.6 million square meters are expected to be completed. A critical, perhaps defining, role in this progress has been played by the Far Eastern Mortgage Program, which, as you know, we have extended to participants of the special military operation. Additionally, young families where parents are under the age of 36 can take advantage of the record low 2% interest rate mortgage. This benefit is also extended to recipients of the Far Eastern Hectare, employees of the defense industry, teachers, and doctors. The same mortgage, with identical conditions, is also offered in Arctic regions. We have already extended these programs until the end of 2030. I know there have been discussions in the government about the future terms of this mortgage. I propose we settle the matter here, keep the interest rate on Far Eastern and Arctic mortgages unchanged at 2% annually. Furthermore, since last year in Primorsky Krai, families welcoming a third child are entitled to an increased mortgage repayment assistance payment, not 450,000 rubles as across the country, but 1 million rubles. We have agreed that a similar payment of 1 million rubles should be introduced for large families in all Far Eastern regions where the birth rate is below the average for the federal district. I ask my colleagues to expedite the adoption of the necessary regulations so that this measure can take effect from July 1 of this year, essentially retroactively. I also want to address a critical issue for families and citizens living in remote areas, in small towns and settlements in the Far East and Arctic. Our task is to ensure regular, uninterrupted supply to these communities and to reduce the time and cost of cargo deliveries. Last year, we passed the Northern Delivery Law. This will now be centrally managed at the federal level, with coordination at the regional level. The transportation and handling of essential goods are given priority on transport routes. Budget loans may be allocated for the procurement and delivery of northern supply goods. The core transport and logistics network for the northern supply will also be developed, including highways, railway stations, sea and river ports, and airports. Starting next year, a unified maritime operator for the northern supply will begin operations. Initially, in a pilot phase, it will transport goods to Chukotka. Later, we will expand its geographical scope to include Yakutia, Kamchatka Krai, Arkhangelsk Oblast, and Krasnoyarsk Krai. A separate issue pertains to medical services for citizens living in remote regions, towns, and settlements. In the Far East, there are localities that can only be reached by rail, and these areas lack enough specialists for medical check UPS, screenings, and health care services. Starting in September of this year, a mobile consultative diagnostic center will begin operating in 5 Far Eastern federal subjects, and next year in 8 subjects. Essentially, this train functions as a modern mobile clinic and pharmacy on wheels, equipped with cutting-edge technology and staffed with specialized doctors. It will be able to conduct a wide range of medical examinations, consult with colleagues from leading research centers in Russia, utilize artificial intelligence technologies to provide medical diagnoses, and, of course, deliver professional healthcare that all citizens need access to, regardless of where they live. I would like to thank Russian Railways, RZD, along with all the doctors, nurses, railway workers, and other specialists involved in this noble and much-needed project. I ask the government to assist the company in ensuring the uninterrupted operation of this modern medical center and pharmacy on wheels. Additionally, to strengthen connections between cities and settlements in the Far East, we will continue to develop regional air travel. As I previously mentioned, by 2030, the number of passengers on domestic flights within the region should increase to 4 million annually. I have instructed the government to approve a plan outlining concrete steps and actions. The preparation of this plan has indeed been delayed, and I urge the swift adoption of all necessary decisions. Of course, an important issue is the aircraft fleet. We need to build our own planes reliable, high quality, and in the volumes we require. In this regard, I urge speeding up the development of the passenger version of the light multi-purpose aircraft Baikal. We need to launch its mass production in the near future. At the same time, I stress that the cost and technical characteristics of the aircraft must be competitive, so that the price of flights on them is affordable for citizens. And if the situation turns out differently, then subsidies should be considered. Dear friends, in recent years, the Far East has become more attractive to young people, those looking to acquire an interesting profession, and also to qualified specialists who want to apply their skills, knowledge, and test their abilities in their chosen fields. For 8 consecutive years, we have seen an influx of youth aged 20 to 24 into the Far East, thanks in part to our targeted support measures. For example, under the Zemsky Teacher, Zemsky Doctor, and Zemsky Paramedic programs, one-time payments for teachers and doctors moving to work in rural areas and settlements in the Far East have been doubled, up to 2 million rubles. For mid-level medical workers, this amount is up to 1 million rubles. We've already agreed to extend these programs until 2030 while maintaining the increased double Far East coefficient for payments. Another decision concerns the Zemsky Cultural Worker Program. It aims to support employees of rural cultural centers, creative houses, libraries, music schools, and museums, those individuals who, in essence, preserve our cultural sovereignty, identity, traditional values, and educate young people. I ask the government to start implementing this program from January 1 of the coming year. And of course, for cultural workers who move to small settlements in the Far East, we must provide increased Far Eastern coefficients for one-time payments and ensure they are eligible to participate in the Far Eastern mortgage program. Additionally, we will certainly continue creating new museums in the Far East. As part of this effort, I instruct to memorialize the Kuril landing operation of August-September 1945, which was one of the last battles of World War II. This operation undoubtedly became a symbol of the courage of our soldiers and officers, who overcame what seemed to be impenetrable enemy fortifications. Dear colleagues, the entire history of the Russian Far East, this vast region that covers nearly 40% of the country's territory, has been written by determined, brave, and strong-willed people. They explored and defended these lands, preserved the traditions of the indigenous peoples, marked new points on Russia's map, built cities and factories, laid roads, and developed natural resources. Our ancestors, who helped raise the Far East, were devoted to their work and to our motherland. Their love for the country helped them set truly significant, grand goals. Their heroism, self-sacrifice, and achievements continue to inspire many of our citizens today. Numerous specialists, doctors, teachers, cultural workers, university professors, businesspeople, and everyone already working in the Far East or planning to make it part of their future, including leaders of regional and municipal teams. Since 2022, the region has been running the Muravyo-Femersky program for training personnel for public service. The program has also been extended to the Arctic. It is in high demand, with intense competition, up to 80 applicants per spot. Young, ambitious people recognize that the development of the Far East and the Arctic is one of the most exciting and promising challenges facing our country. We will certainly extend the Muravyo-Femersky program at least until 2030. I will reiterate, together, government bodies at all levels, the business community, public organizations, and citizens must actively participate in implementing new national projects and programs. These initiatives should have a broad Far Eastern dimension, helping to advance the development of this strategically important region of Russia and improve the quality of life for its people. Of course, we will also expand the connections between the Russian Far East and the rest of our country, as well as with foreign partners, friends, states, and companies interested in reliable, long-term, mutually beneficial cooperation. In doing so, we will continue to strengthen Russia's position in the world. I am confident that, together, we will undoubtedly succeed. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for joining us on Our World for our coverage of the opening remarks by President Putin at the 9th Eastern Economic Forum. We hope this episode provided you with valuable insights into the strategic development, innovations, and investment opportunities outlined for a prosperous future in Russia's Far East. If you found this analysis engaging and informative, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more updates on key global economic events and political developments. Stay tuned for more in-depth content and discussions on Our World.